Box score of the night here, January 11th, recap of the basketball games for fantasy basketball in the NBA, and the New York Knicks and the Charlotte Hornets in this one. And the Hornets, they beat the Knicks easily in this one, 109-88. And the Knicks fall to 5-6, and the Hornets improved to 6-5 now. So the Knicks have lost 3 in a row, and the Hornets playing a little better of late. Now to the box score. We'll start off with the Knicks. Mitchell Robinson in this one. He had a good game for fantasy owners and for the Knicks. 33 minutes of play, 12 points, 11 rebounds, and a couple blocks, and he was a perfect 5 for 5 from the field. It was Mitch Robinson, 2 for 4 from the foul line, and obviously he didn't give a 3. So Robinson, he's putting up decent numbers. Another nice double-double here tonight, and so far he's living up to the value, kind of, where he got drafted in the 5th to 6th round of fantasy leagues. But you want to see a little more from Robinson like this each and every night. And most of his points in this one was putbacks and lay-ins. R.J. Barrett, on the other hand, another bad night from the field for him. And the struggles continue a lot here. 5 of 18 from the field, 1 for 2 from the line, and 0 for 5 from deep was Barrett. So Barrett, at least he added some other stats to his stat line. 11 points, 9 rebounds, 5 assists, and 2 steals in this one. But he just can't get his field goal percentage up, and he can't shoot the jumper. And Barrett in this one, he had a decent amount of open looks, but he just couldn't get the job done. And right now, fantasy owners, if they're worried about Barrett, they might try to trade him this week. It's good, though, that he's still getting rebounds and assists, but that field goal percentage has to go up. Austin Rivers, he got the start in this one with Reggie Bullock, the usual starter, out with an injury in this game. And Austin Rivers, he had a decent game in this one. 37 minutes of play, 13 points, 4 rebounds and an assist. 5 of 12 from the field and 3 of 9 from 3. So Rivers, he's doing what you expect. He's going to get 10 to 12 points a game. Probably add a 3.5 to 2 threes a game. And that's what he did in this one, was Rivers. You would want to see him get more shot attempts in this offense, because I think Rivers is the second best scorer and playmaker on this team with the Knicks behind Randall. And now, speaking of Randall, he had a down game in this one. 11 points, 5 boards, 5 assists, and a lot of double teaming the Hornets were doing on Randall. But Randall will be fine. He's been a fantasy stud this season. And then the Knicks next game, I think Randall, he'll get back with a huge one. And the Knicks, they're reeling right now. And Randall, he got in foul trouble early in this one. Alfred Payton, he had a decent fantasy game in this one. 15 points, 6 boards, 4 assists, and he actually shot 7 of 14 from the field for 50%, and he hit a 3. So Payton, he's been the starter all season for the Knicks. There's no one really getting to him to get his starting job. Maybe Quickly, maybe Nicolino when he comes back, but he's not getting healthy. And Quickly in this one, he went 1 for 10 from the field. So Payton, he's not in danger of losing his starting job, and he's going to play the minutes. He could pass the ball, and if he could improve his shooting somehow, he'll be valuable. Kevin Knox in this one, he had a breakout performance. 19 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, 7 of 17 from the field for Knox, and he hit a whopping 5 threes out of 12 attempts. So Knox, he's still a player that shouldn't be owned in most fantasy leagues, even with a big game like this where he was hitting threes. It was just a good game for him from downtown, but I got to see more from him if you're going to own him in fantasy. Immanuel Quickly, he's a player that should only be owned in 14 to 16 team leagues at best. In this one, he did play 28 minutes, but no impact really. 3 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, and a terrible 1 for 10 from the field for his Quickly. This Hornet defense, they were swarming on this Knicks team, and they just couldn't get anything going. And the Knicks, again, in this one, held under 90 points for the 3rd game in a row. And Nerlens Noel played 14 minutes, but he has no value. Now to the Hornet side of things. Bismack Biyombo, another start where he didn't do anything. Biyombo, 2 weeks ago, he was doing good and a recommended pickup. But right now, Biyombo, he shouldn't be on any fantasy teams, really. 2 points, 3 rebounds, and 1 for 2 from the field and a couple blocks. But he don't have enough value or enough impact on the stat line to own him. P.J. Washington, a mediocre game for him. 30 minutes of play, 13 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, 4 of 11 from the field, 2 for 5 from 3. So Washington, it was a decent game for him. and he's a player that's had up and down so far this season, and I think that will continue as the season goes on. But he's a player you just got to keep and hope for the best with Washington. Terry Rozier in this one, 33 minutes of play, 12 points, 6 boards, 2 assists. A scary Terry. He's a player I said last week to sell high because I think those big games where he went for 35 and 42 are going to be few and far in between. And his numbers are going to be more like he did here tonight with 12 to 15 points with a couple threes and a few boards. And Rozier in this one, he didn't do much. And he's a player I would just try to sell off because I think there could be a trade in the works soon, or LaMelo Ball's going to start for this team. Gordon Hayward, another huge game for him here. 34 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, 11 of 17 from the field, 10 for 10 from the line, and he added 2 threes. So Hayward, I've been wrong about him so far this season. He's been Hayward of old from the Jazz days, it looks like, and he's averaging on the year 22 points this season. The Hornets, they paid him a boatload of money. 4 years, $120 million. But I think Hayward, there's still a real possibility he could get injured here. And if you have Hayward, I think he's still a great sell-high candidate, is Hayward, even though he's putting up huge numbers and helping fantasy teams. But for some reason, I just don't trust him this season to stay healthy and play every game, or just about most of the games. Devontae Graham, it was a good game for him. He's been struggling mightily this season from the field and scoring. And this one, 19 points, 2 boards, 7 assists, 7 of 15 from the field. And he added 2 threes. So Devontae Graham, hopefully he could get his shot going and get the plays back up for him, because it's been a bad season for him. A lot of owners expected the great production you had out of him last season, this year, but so far that just hasn't been the case. So hopefully Graham could have more type of ball games like he did in this one. Melo Ball in this one, he shot the ball poorly, 3 for 13 from the field. But the rest of his stat line, 8 points, a whopping 14 boards for the first-year guard, and 7 assists with 2 steals. So Ball, he helps out in a lot of different categories, even with a bad field goal percentage in this one. He did a little bit of everything. We saw him get the triple-double a few nights ago. And Ball, he's a player that you're going to have on your fantasy team the whole season. And if he could just improve his shooting a little bit this year, he's going to be a top 50 fantasy player probably by the end of the season. Miles Bridges, a decent game in this one. 13 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists, 5 for 6 from the field, and he hit 2 threes. So Bridges, he's been an up and down player so far this season. In 8 and 10 team leagues, maybe he's droppable. But 12 teams and on, I would just hold on to him. He's still getting major minutes. Him and Ball are the 6th and 7th men off the bench here for this Charlotte Hornet team. And the Martin brothers, they're not really going to be a threat to these guys taking their playing time. So that was the Knicks and the Hornets box score. Bucks and the Orlando Magic in this one. And the Bucks with a big victory, 121-99. And the Bucks now, they're starting to really take apart the competition after getting off to a slow start early in the year. And now let's see the box score for the fantasy impact. Brook Lopez in this one, 28 minutes, 6 points, 3 rebounds, 6 and 2 of 6 from the field, 3 assists, 1 of 4 from 3. So Brook Lopez, he's a player. He had a down game in this one, and there's going to be ups and downs with him, especially that he's the 4th or 5th option on this Milwaukee Buck team. But Brook Lopez, I would still own him in many fantasy leagues, and he's still getting major minutes and starting. So I think it's just a down game for him, and he'll be okay. Chris Middleton in this one, a good double-double for Middleton. 20 points, 10 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 of 6 from 3, and 9 of 17 from the field, which is over 50%. So Chris Middleton, another solid start to the season for him. And Middleton now, he's been great for fantasy and this Buck team. The last 3 or 4 years, he gets a lot of hate towards him for no reason, but he's a pretty good player, Middleton. He does his job, he don't complain, and he could put up points and help this Buck team possibly make the championship this season. So Middleton, he's been good for fantasy owners, and he keeps producing, and a nice double-double here for tonight. The Greek Freak, Giannis Antetokounmpo in this one, 27 minutes, 22 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, 8 of 16 from the field, and 2 for 4 from 3. So Giannis, you know what you're going to get from him. two-time reigning MVP right now, is the Greek Freak, and it was good to see him go 2 for 4 from 3. So if he could get better at his foul shooting and three-point shooting, he's going to get more points a game and even be better than he is, which is scary. So Giannis, he's having a good season and living up to that top 2 or 3 pick so far. DiVincenzo in this one, he didn't get much going or an opportunity. Only 4 for 7 from the field, 9 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists. But this ball game was over by the early fourth quarter. So most of the starters, they didn't play heavy minutes for this Buck team. And that's why. But DiVincenzo, he's a good player to have at the end of your roster. He could get a couple assists. He rebounds decently. He could score and hit a few threes. So I wouldn't worry about him after a mediocre night. Jrue Holiday in this one, he's a guy I'm starting to worry about is Holiday. 11 points in this one, 3 rebounds, 3 assists. And his numbers are way down so far with his new team from where they were with the Pelicans last season. And another bad shooting game for him, 3 for 10 from the field, 0 for 4 from downtown. So if I'm a Holiday owner, I think I'm going to look to trade him off this week and try to get anything of decency for him, because I don't think he fits this Milwaukee Buck team that good, and that's not a good thing. They gave up 3 future first-round picks to get Holiday into town here in the offseason. Another guy who came into town from Milwaukee, but he's producing, is Bobby Portis. And Bobby Portis, another good game here tonight. 24 minutes of play, 20 points, 5 rebounds, 9 of 13 from the field, and 2 or 3 from three-point land. So Portis, he's a great man off the bench here from Milwaukee. He fits in well. He's scoring the basketball at a good rate as well as Portis. And now, if he's out there still in your fantasy leagues, you should go get him, which I recommended to do in my forwards waiver wire video. So Bobby Portis, he's producing. He's a main guy off the bench for this Buck team, and you should go out there and get him because he's been big numbers so far this season. DJ Augustine in this one, 20 minutes, 8 points, 4 assists, 2 or 6 from the field, 1 or 3 from 3. There would need to be an injury to DiVincenzo or Holiday, obviously, for Augustine to have fantasy value. But we've seen him in the past be a decent fantasy player. Pat Connaughton, he's back, 18 minutes, 7 points, 4 boards, but no value for him. Breen Forbes, 14 points, 2 rebounds and a dime, 4 for 7 from the field, 3 for 4 from 3, but he's not playing enough minutes to have fantasy value for this Buck team. Orlando Magic now, Nikola Vukovic, this guy, he's a walking double-double, and in this game, he had a whopping 25 field goal attempts. He finished the night with 28 points, 13 rebounds, 5 assists, and he added 4 threes and 10 tries. So Vukovic, every season, it seems like he adds something to his game, and he gets better, and he's living up to that second or third round pick in fantasy leagues this year. Dwayne Bacon, he's been a pickup in deeper leagues I've seen over the last few days, but in this one, he didn't have much of an impact. 11 points, 3 rebounds, 5 of 10 from the field, and he didn't add a 3, but Bacon, his playing time's going to be decent now, and a little bit added his minutes with Evan Fournier still out, obviously, Michael Carter-Williams out, and also Markelle Fultz, who's out for the season with a torn ACL. So this team, they're pretty banged up. They're playing some guys they probably didn't expect to play early in the season. So Bacon, he had 28 minutes, but he didn't do much. James Ennis in this one, he got the start at small forward. 15 minutes, 3 points, 2 rebounds, and an assist. Ennis, he's not on the radar. Aaron Gordon, another good game for Gordon now. And he's a player I was big on coming into the season. And he's starting to get it going now. 21 points, 5 rebounds. A nice 8 assists for Gordon. 8 of 14 from the field. And he added 3 for 4 from three-point land. So far, Gordon, his shooting's getting a little more consistent and better the last few games. And his assists have gone up as well for fantasy owners. So that's a plus. So Aaron Gordon, he's a player I like a lot, and if you could try to trade for him, this is the time to do it, because I think he's going to be a monster the rest of the fantasy season. Cole Anthony, he was a recommended pickup this week, obviously, so check that out if you haven't. Guards to pick up on waivers. Anthony, 12 points, 3 boards, and an assist, 4 of 13 from the field. and he added a 3. Anthony, he's going to have growing pains. Obviously, he's a rookie. He's going to start and play 25, 30 minutes a game. The problem with him is his field goal percentage, and he's not going to give you many threes. But he's a guy that should be owned in a majority of fantasy leagues because of his upside and the position he's in now. Bone in this one, 28 minutes, 8 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, 3 of 6 from the field. But he has no fantasy value, especially when Fournier and Carter Williams come back. Terrence Ross, a down game for him in this one, 25 minutes, only 4 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, and he only had 6 shot attempts. So Terrence Ross, it was just an off night overall, and the Magic, they got blown out in this one. So Ross, hopefully he bounces back in the next game, and he's been pretty solid so far. Gary Clark, 18 minutes, 2 points, 3 rebounds. He's got no value. Birch, he's been a pickup in deeper leagues, but he's not valuable, in my opinion, in 12-team and 10-team leagues. 18 minutes, 2 points, 3 rebounds. Mo Bamba sighting in this one, 11 minutes, and he had a decent stat line. 8 points, 4 rebounds, and an assist. But Mo Bamba, he's been a bust so far in the NBA and for fantasy teams where he shouldn't be owned in any leagues unless it's a 20-team league or something. So that was the Milwaukee Bucks and the Orlando Magic box score. Washington Wizards and the Phoenix Suns here. And the Wizards win this one 128-107, a huge ball game. And the Wizards, they were up early in this one, 59-24, and never looked back. So we'll go to the box score here. And for the Phoenix Suns, DeAndre Ayton, a mediocre game for him in this one. 24 minutes, 8 points, 6 rebounds, and an assist. 4 of 10 from the field. So Ayton this season, he's been an up-and-down player so far for fantasy owners. But he's a player I still think's going to have a good season and break out. In this game, it was just a down game overall for Phoenix. So it's normal for Ayton not to have much of an impact or do much. But I think he'll bounce back. Hold on to Ayton. Don't panic and don't trade him yet because I think the best is yet to come. Devin Booker, this is one of his best scoring games of the season here. 33 points, 11 of 21 from the field, 10 for 10 from the line, and he added 3. And this is the stuff I wanted to see from Booker this season, more scoring. And last year, his numbers were a little better at this point, scoring the basketball. But Booker, he's starting to get it going now. He was aggressive in this game. He got to the line. And, Booker, he could drop 40 or 50 points any given night. The way this guy plays the game and how quick he could get hot from three-point land. So even in a blowout game, Booker had a good game and contribute to fantasy owners. Jay Crowder in this one, 30 minutes of play. 2.6 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 of 5 from the field. So Jay Crowder, he's been inconsistent for fantasy owners and the Suns, but he's more of a defensive type of guy. They're not going to ask him to be one of the main leaders on this offense, and that's showing. And right now, in fantasy basketball, I know you need some other categories and stuff, but if Jay Crowder is going to be a guy who's only going to get 2 to 10 points each and every night, I don't think he's worth a roster spot in shallower leagues of 10 to 12 team leagues because he's just not producing every night the points you want, and sometimes his stat lines are empty like they were here tonight. Mikal Bridges, another solid game for him. 14 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, 6 and 9 from the field. Then he added a 3. So Bridges, he's been a surprise this season in fantasy basketball, and he's ranked one of the highest players at the forward position, surprisingly. And Bridges, he's a player I've been saying for weeks to sell high, and I still stand by it. Once Booker really gets going and Chris Paul and Ayton, Bridges, his numbers are going to drop, and I don't think he's going to sustain the value he's been doing right now. Chris Paul, in this one, he played 36 minutes, a big workload for him in a blowout loss here. 14 points, 5 rebounds, and a nice 11 assists. 5 of 10 from the field. So Chris Paul, he's been solid this season. His points per game have dropped off a little, but that's just because the other options here in this offense for the Phoenix Suns. But he's a good fantasy player and a great ball player is Chris Paul. Just the only thing with him is injury concerns each and every season. Dario Saric, 20 minutes off the bench, 13 points, 6 rebounds, 4 of 8 from the field, 1 for 4 from 3. So Saric, he's been starting to get it going of late, but right now I got to see more to have him on the radar in fantasy. Cam Johnson in this one, 18 minutes, 5 points, 4 boards, 2 assists. Johnson, the last couple games now, he's in the doldrums, and he could be droppable in most fantasy leagues, I believe. There's better options on the waiver wire this week. Jalon Carter, Langston Galloway, Jones and Nadar, and E'Twaun Moore. These guys, they played a decent role in this one, but this game was out of hand early, and that's why they got extended minutes. They don't have fantasy value. Now to the Wizard side of things. Rolo Robin Lopez, one of the pickups of the week, and I recommended him as a pickup at center. A great game for him. 11 points, 11 rebounds, 2 assists, 5 of 6 from the field. So Rolo, this is what you're going to get from him. He's a solid ball player. He still can contribute. And now with Thomas Bryant out for the season, with the torn ACL, Robin Lopez, he's going to get the job done and do good things for this Washington Wizard team. And a great game here with a double-double tonight. And hopefully we see more out of him. Bradley Beal, no Russell Westbrook. No problem for Beal and the Wizards. 34 points, 8 rebounds, and he had the Westbrook type of usage with the ball in his hands a lot, and a nice 9 assists for him. Good field goal percentage, over 50%, 12 of 22 from the field, and 2 for 7 from 3. So Beal the other night calling out his teammates, not playing defense and not hustling. But in this game, they did hustle with the Wizards, and they got a rare victory for themselves, which they haven't done much this season. And Beal, he's a total stud. Every night it seems like he's dropping 30 points, and the 9 assists on top of it's a bonus. Avdija in this one, 6 points, 5 rebounds, and an assist. He got added a lot in the last few days after he had a 20-point game. But Avdija, he's a guy I said to pump the brakes on, and we have to see more consistency out of him to have him go on a roster spot in fantasy leagues. And right now, he's just not consistent enough. Rui Hachimura, a decent game in this one. He almost had a double-double, 10 points, 9 boards, 3 dimes, 4 and 9 from the field. So Hachimura, he's going to be a decent player. He's going to have many similar stat lines to this over the course of the season, and I think he's valuable in 12 and 14 team leagues. Raul Neto, he's filling in for Westbrook, who's out for a week only supposedly with the left quad soreness. We'll see how long he's out, but once again, Westbrook down with injury. 16 points for Neto, 2 rebounds, 2 assists, 7 of 13 from the field, 2 for 6 from 3. So it was surprising to see Neto have 13 shot attempts, and he played pretty well. And he's a recommended pickup in deeper leagues because Westbrook, it don't sound like he'll be out for more than a week. Davis Bertans in this one, 24 minutes, 18 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists. And Bertans did what he does best in this one. He added 6 threes, 6 for 10 from the field, and 6 for 9 from downtown. So this is what he's going to do. He's a stretch 4, stretch 5 here for Washington. And that's when he's going to give you 3-point shooting. He'll get a few boards here and there. And he's a guy that should be owned in most 12 and 14 team leagues. Mortis Wagner, he was a recommended pickup this week at the forward position. And he had a mediocre game in this one. 9 points, 6 rebounds, and an assist. 1 for 1 from downtown and 3 for 5 from 3. So Wagner, he played a decent amount of time, 22 minutes. But in this game, a couple other guys who don't really get playing time, like Irv Ishmit, Matthews, Bonga, and Gill played in this one. So I think Wagner, his playing time will be anywhere from 25 to 30 minutes in normal circumstances where the games are close. So Wagner, I recommended to pick him up in 12 and 14 team leagues because he's going to have a role, obviously, and he can help with rebounding and 3-point shooting. So that was the Phoenix Suns and the Washington Wizards box score and fantasy basketball recap. The Memphis Grizzlies and the Cleveland Cavaliers in this one, and the Grizzlies with a good road victory, 101-91 with a big win, and the Grizzlies now go to 4-6, and the Cavs fall to 5-6. We'll go to the box score here. Jonas Valanciunas, 12 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, 6 of 10 from the field. And Jonas, he's been a good player this season for fantasy owners. He's getting the job done. He's been a walking double-double most of the season. And the only concern for him coming into every year is health. But so far, he's been healthy, and hopefully he stays putting up big numbers and healthy this year. Kyle Anderson, he's been a pickup over the last few weeks here for the Memphis Grizzlies, and he almost had a triple-double in this one with 8 points, 6 rebounds, 9 assists, 2 or 5 from the field, 4 or 6 from the line. So Anderson, he should be owned in every fantasy league pretty much, even though he's been struggling of late. But there's nights like this where he could put up a full box score and stats for your fantasy team, and he's playing the major minutes. Ja Morant, he won't be back anytime soon, or Jaren Jackson. So Anderson and Brandon Clark, they're going to get major minutes at the forward position. Speaking of Brandon Clark, another pretty decent game for him here. 29 minutes of play, 15 points, 4 boards, and assists, 7 of 13 from the field. But he went 0 from 2 from downtown. So Clark, he's going to be up and down this season, but he's getting the playing time, and he was a player drafted in about 8th or 9th round, the most fantasy drafts this season. And Clark, so far, he's putting up pretty good value. He's going to give you rebounds. He's going to score the basketball, and he'll get you about an assist or 2 a game. And this Grizzly team, they probably won't make the playoffs this season. So it's more playing time for these young kids. Dillon Brooks in this one, 33 minutes, 21.7 rebounds, 3 assists, 6 of 15 from the field, 7 for 8 from the line, but only 2 for 8 from downtown. So Dillon Brooks, he's been stepping up of late here. Ever since Morant went down, his scoring and his stats have gone up. So Brooks, he's a player who should be owned, obviously, in a majority of fantasy leagues. He's getting the job done right now, and he's a good player to have at the back end of your roster to help your team and help you win categories and weeks in head-to-head leagues and points leagues. So Brooks, he's going to get major minutes this season. Even with Morant coming back, say, in 2 or 3 weeks, I don't think it'll affect him that much. So he's a solid play. Tyus Jones in this one, he had a pretty good game. 13 points, 5 rebounds, 7 assists, 5 for 9 from the field, 1 for 1 from downtown. So Jones, obviously, he's been filling in for Morant now the last few weeks since he's been down with injury. But Jones, he's a player that's been up and down, and only in deeper leagues I think he's worthy of a roster spot at this time, unless he has more good performances like he did tonight with the 13 points and 7 assists. So if Jones, he could be solidified and he could be legit at the point guard spot with putting up numbers consistently, he's worth the roster spot. So for now, I would keep him on the watch list. And if he could pile up a few more games like this, then I would go out there and add him. Desmond Bane in this one, he's the 6th man coming off the bench this season, especially with the injury to Ja Morant. 20 minutes, 9 points, 4 boards, 2 assists. So Bane, he's not going to do much but help you in points and 3-point shooting, but he's a low-end type of guard. And right now, I would only add him in 14 to 16 team leagues. He's not having a much value or production right now to be owned in 10 and 12 team leagues. Melton, he had a decent game, 18 minutes of play, 8 points, 2 boards, 2 dimes, 3 of 7 from the field. He's not on the radar yet. Tillman, 17 minutes, 8 points, a rebound, 2 assists. Him either. And Grayson Allen, 17 minutes with 7 points, 2 rebounds, and an assist. And out of the Cleveland side of things, Andre Drummond, what a monster he's been this season, all year. Speaking of a walking double-double, he's the definition of one. 19 points, 14 rebounds, and 3 assists for Drummond, 8 of 16 from the field. But the troubling part, and it's always been a problem for Drummond, 3 of 9 from the foul line. And this guy, some weeks, he's going to hurt your free throw percentage and your turnover rate. So that's the only down thing with Drummond, but he's going to get you tons of points, rebounds, and blocks. So if somehow he could produce and be better at the foul line, he's going to be a top 20 player the rest of the season. Larry Nance Jr., pretty decent game for him in this one. 13 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, 5 of 7 from the field, and he even added 3 for 3 from downtown. So Larry Nance, you know he's going to have fantasy value as long as Kevin Love is out this season. So I like the job he's doing this year as Nance. He's going to play. He's going to score the basketball. And he played 38 minutes in this one. So Love, I don't think he's coming back anytime soon. And this Cleveland team, it's probably going to be another rebuilding year. And they're going to rely on Nance for big minutes. Coming off the bench is starting. C.D. Osman, 33 minutes, 14 points, 3 rebounds, 4 assists, 5 of 13 from the field. And he added 3 threes. The thing with Osman, I got to see more out of him. He'll have a good game like he did tonight. And the next game, he'll have 2 or 4 points and shoot 10% from the field. So Osman, you got to wait and see on him. Consistency's been a problem for him over the last few seasons. So if he could get the consistency, he could then get a roster spot in 10 and 12 team leagues. Damian Dotson, the former Knick, another decent game for him here. 37 minutes of play, 14 points, 3 rebounds, 6 dimes, 6 of 14 from the field, 2 of 7 from 3. So Damian Dotson, when we seen in his career so far, him getting chances to play, he puts up decent stat lines. And right now, this team, they're all banged up with the injuries to Darius Garland. Sexton's out again in this one. He was out. Porter and also Matthew Dellavedova. So right now they're desperate. Dotson, he's not really a point guard, but he's been starting there the last few games, and he's putting up decent numbers. So 14-team leagues, he's definitely worth an ad right now is Dotson. Okoro in this one, 12 points, 2 rebounds, and an assist for Okoro. 5 for 11 from the field, 2 for 3 from downtown. So Okoro, a huge 39 minutes of play for the young rookie that they drafted in the top 10 here in the NBA draft. So he's getting opportunities. He's got an upside, but we got to see more out of him for him to really get a roster spot in most fantasy leagues. A Yogi Ferrell sighting in this one. You know they're desperate. 16 minutes, 9 points, 2 rebounds, and an assist, 4 for 9 from the field. So Ferrell right now, he's the backup point guard with all the injuries that I mentioned. But once these guys come back, he's probably going to be cut off the team or just have no value. And JaVale McGee, a decent game in this one. 6 points, 7 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 of 7 from the field, and 0 for 1 from 3. But McGee, he hasn't played consistent minutes, and he's a player right now that probably shouldn't be owned in fantasy leagues unless Andre Drummond went down or something. So the Philadelphia 76ers and the Atlanta Hawks here with a decent game in this one, but the Hawks pulled away mid-third quarter and won this one 112-94. And the 76ers, we know they were undermanned in this one. And to start it off, Joel Embiid, though, a great game for him. 24 points, 11 rebounds, an assist, 8 of 17 from the field. And he went 1 for 4 from downtown. He only played 22 minutes of work after coming off the knee problem that kept him out a few games, but it was good to see him back. It was a big double-double for Embiid, and this is what fantasy owners hope to see from him this season, and hopefully he could stay healthy and produce. But this game, it was a blowout, and it made no sense for the Sixers to push him. So 22 points, not a bad game from him. Next, Tyrese Maxey, he was a pickup at the guard position this week after exploding for 39 points the other night. And in this one, he played 30 minutes again, 15 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, 7 of 14 from the field. So Maxey, he's been an impressive rookie so far in the early going here for the Philadelphia 76ers. And obviously Ben Simmons missed this game again, and Seth Curry and Shake Milton with the protocols. But once those guys come back, Maxey, he probably won't be playing top-notch minutes. He'll play probably 15, 20 minutes at best, if that. But right now, I would ride the wave here with Maxey. He's got 3 more games coming up this week, and he's producing for the Sixers and fantasy teams. Mike Scott, he got the start in this one, but he didn't have an impact and no value. 2 points, 4 rebounds in 22 minutes of play, so he shouldn't be on fantasy teams. Danny Green, we get the good and we get the ugly from him. And in this ball game, it was the ugly from Danny Green. 28 minutes of play, 2 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, and a horrible 0 for 9 from the field. So Danny Green, only in deeper leagues, I believe he would be a pickup and a guy worth a roster spot. But 10 and 12 team leagues, I would keep Danny Green on the wire because I think you're going to see many nights like you did here tonight, and his ceiling ain't that high. Mathias, on the other hand, he had a good game in this one. 39 minutes of play for Mathias. 14 points, 2 rebounds, 4 assists, 6 of 15 from the field. Then he went 2 for 8 from downtown. So Philly, they're just playing guys and hoping something sticks until their main guys, Tobias Harris, Simmons, Curry, and Shake Milton come back. So this team's got wiped out with the protocols and the virus, and they're hoping to recover here by midweek. But Mathias, he's a guy you can use on the cheap in daily fantasy or a spot starter for a couple games in daily day-to-day games to start. Dwight Howard in this one, he actually had a decent game and played 34 minutes, which was surprising. 7 points, 11 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 of 3 from 3. So Dwight, he actually was a recommended pickup this week. But now with Joel Embiid back in the lineup, his stats and time playing are obviously going to go down unless another injury pops up for Embiid. But due to this game being a blowout, Howard, he got big minutes, but I don't expect him to play 30-plus minutes most nights. Isaiah Joe in this one, he's been a sneaky pickup for Ronas, and I seen him in a couple of my leagues. Guys go out there and get him, and he had 18 points, 2 rebounds, 4 assists, 4 for 7 from 3, and 6 of 9 from the field. So just like Matthias, Isaiah Joe, the same type of thing with him. A few more games, he could only be valuable. Then he's going to be a guy who's going to be a bench warmer and not playing, because the Sixers, they're on their third and fourth strings right now of guys getting playing time. Patrick Reed in this one, 20 minutes of play, 6 points, 3 rebounds. You're probably like, who is that? I never heard of him exactly, and he's a guy that has no value. Tony Bradley, another decent game in this one after coming off an 11-point, 15-rebound game the other night. In this one, 6 points, 8 rebounds, and an assist for Bradley, 3 for 6 from the field. But that game, he had to play big minutes. This one, it was out of hand, so they just let him play the 13 minutes. But he's going to have no fantasy value now with Joel Embiid back in the lineup and playing. Now to the Hawks side of things. Clint Capella, another solid double-double, 12 points, 11 rebounds, and an assist for Capella. 4 of 12 from the field, 4 of 6 from the line. And this is what you're going to get from Capella. Decent field goal percentage, a low type of double-double, but he's a player that should be owned in pretty much every fantasy league. He's a big part of this Hawk team, and he's been playing pretty solid this season. The only problem with him is injury concerns. DeAndre Hunter, he's been the pickup of the year possibly in fantasy basketball, and another good game for him. 15 points, 7 rebounds, 4 of 8 from the field, and 1 for 2 from downtown. So Hunter right now, he's the main forward on this team. Bogdanovic, he's out with the right knee fracture, and Gallinari, he's still a couple weeks away with the ankle sprain. So Hunter, he's got the keys to the starting lineup, and even when those guys come back, I think Hunter is a better basketball player at this time, even though Gallinari got $60 million and Bogdanovic got $70, and right now those investments aren't looking good for this Hawk team, who's a mediocre 5-5 right now. Trae Young, he came back with a good performance in this one, 26 points, 3 assists, 8 rebounds, 3 assists in this one for Trae Young. 9 for 19 from the field, 5 of 6 from the line, 3 of 7 from the three-point line. So Young, you want to see that shooting percentage go up a little, but he's the type of player that's going to jack up shots, and when he gets hot, he goes unconscious from the field, and this is why he was a top 10 pick in most fantasy leagues. John Collins, he had a little bit of an off game for his standards in this one. 24 minutes he only played, 12 points, 7 boards, and an assist, 4 for 7 from downtown. So Collins, he's a player that's been taken in the top 30 of most fantasy leagues, and he had a good game in this one. The Hawks, they blew him out, so their starters only played 25 minutes about, and Collins still put up a decent stat line. So he's a stud. He's a good player to have on your fantasy team, and I expect big games out of him this season. Cam Reddish, decent game for him. He's been struggling of late. 10 points, 5 rebounds, 3 of 8 from the field, 1 for 4 from downtown. So the former Duke product, he's getting all the starter minutes here for Atlanta. He's playing big minutes, and he's a player that should be owned in all 12 and 14 team formats. The 8 and 10 team leagues, he shouldn't be owned because of his inconsistency. Kevin Huerter in this one, 24 minutes, 8 points, 5 rebounds, and an assist. He's a player that's on the fringe of being owned in fantasy leagues, but he's just been inconsistent, and this Hawk team's loaded, even with the injuries. Huerter, he's the 6th man coming off the bench, and he's not getting much production. Goodwin in this one, he had a surprising game. 22 minutes of work, 15 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, 5 for 12 from the field, 3 for 7 from downtown. But Goodwin, he has no value. Solomon Hill, the veteran, he played 21 minutes, 9 points, 8 rebounds, but he's not going to have fantasy value. This game just got out of hand, and they used most of the bench, but Tony Snell did return in this one. He only played 6 minutes, and he went 0 for 3 from the field, and he definitely has no fantasy value at this time. So that was the Philadelphia 76ers and Atlanta Hawks box game of the night, the Sacramento Kings and the Indiana Pacers. And the Kings here with a good victory in this one, 127-122. The Kings improved to 5-6 on the year, and the Pacers fall to 6-4. And a good matchup it was. So Miles Turner in this one, 30 minutes of play, 6 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, and he added a 3. So Miles Turner, he's getting tons of block shots so far early in the season, but he's still a center I would sell high on because his numbers aren't up to par in far as scoring and rebounding the basketball. The block shots are great and all, but with all these good players on the roster, I don't think Turner, he's going to be a good scorer or a great fantasy player. Right now, I know he's ranked in the top 10 in 9-cat leagues because of his blocking ability. But Turner, if I could find a good trade out there and get rid of him, I would. Victor Oladipo, he had a decent game in this one. 21 points, 3 rebounds, 4 assists for Depot. 8 of 20 from the field, 2-11 from the three-point line. So Victor Oladipo, he might not play tonight because of a back-to-back. But in this one, he had a heavy workload with 37 minutes played. In Indiana, they had a short bench in this one. Domantas Sabonis, another big game for him, and he's been a stud this season. 28 points, 11 rebounds, 3 assists, 12 of 21 from the field. So Sabonis, he's doing more than most fantasy owners probably expected with huge lines and double-doubles like this one. And I see it continuing just about for the rest of the season. Malcolm Brogdon, he's been a beast as well this year in fantasy basketball. 24 points, 4 rebounds, 9 assists for Brogdon. But Brogdon, he's definitely a player I will look to sell high this week at the guard position because I think you could get a decent package, even a 2-for-1 for Brogdon of 2 players who are maybe struggling or who are on the brink. But right now, Malcolm Brogdon, I don't think he's going to keep up with scoring 24 points a game this season, so I would try to trade him. Doug McDermott, once in a while, he has a flash game like he did in this one, and he got hot from 3-point range. 3 of 5 from deep, 8 of 10 from the field for McDermott. 29 minutes, 21 points, but he still don't have fantasy value. We got to see more out of him for him to have value. Justin Holiday in this one, he got the start. 34 minutes, 8 points, 5 rebounds, 3 of 8 from the field, 2 of 4 from 3. So Holiday, he was a recommended pickup this week at the forward position. And Holiday, he's going to play a good role for this team with TJ Warren out. I know Jeremy Lamb's starting to practice, but I don't expect him to be back or playing a major role after the ACL injury for a while. So Justin Holiday, he's a player that you should pick up on your wire. I know it was a mediocre game, but he's going to have better days ahead. Now to the King side of things, Raquan Holmes, another good double-double in this one. 16 points, 10 rebounds, 3 assists, 6 for 11 from the field, 1 for 1 from downtown was Holmes. So Holmes, he's been pretty good this season, and he's another player I recommend to sell high this week is Holmes. Those videos will come out later today, but Holmes, he's playing over his head, I think. Marvin Bagley, he had a bad game in this one. So when these guys, one has a good game and the one doesn't. So it seems like they're switching each and every week who's having a good game or not each game, I mean. But Raquan Holmes, it's a good line. He's playing well. You got him in the 9th to 10th round of fantasy drafts. So he's a player that you're happy to have right now. But I would sell him high. De'Aaron Fox, a good game in this one. 21 points, 5 rebounds. 9 assists, 7 of 19 from the field for Fox, and 2 for 6 from downtown. So Fox, he's been a good player the last few seasons. He got the big contract in the offseason. Just the only thing with him is field goal percentage and points are down a little bit this season. But Fox will be fine. Harrison Barnes, another player I would sell high this week. 37 minutes of play, 30 points, 8 rebounds, 2 assists, 10 of 14 from the field, and 2 of 3 from downtown. So Barnes this season, he's scoring the basketball better. His 3-point shooting's improving, and he's even getting to the line a decent amount of times. And Barnes, he was a player that wasn't drafted in a majority of fantasy leagues. And now, with these big numbers and stuff, I think I could package Barnes and someone else for a big superstar in fantasy basketball, because I don't think Barnes, he's going to sustain scoring 20 points per night like he has so far this season. I know it's a good 11-game sample, But once the 20-game mark hits, then you know who's probably going to be for real or not. And I don't think Barnes is going to keep this up. Marvin Bagley, he's a player this year I said to avoid. And he's going to have ups and downs. And in this game, 8 points, 7 rebounds, 2 assists, 4 or 7 from the field. He only played 23 minutes. So Marvin Bagley, his father don't like him over there in Sacramento. He said his son should get traded. And Bagley, he's just been inconsistent since he got drafted. And another inconsistent game in this one. Buddy Hield, maybe he's starting to shoot out of his slump that he's been in all season. 6 for 11 from downtown. 18 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists. So Buddy Hield, he's just turning into a pure 3-point shooter right now is Hield. With the 11 attempts, all of them at the 3-point line. So Buddy Hield, last season he was one of the best shooters in the NBA. And this year I think he's going to bounce back. Even if he gets traded, wherever he goes, he's a flamethrower shooter, and he's going to have fantasy value. Tyler Halliburton, he got good minutes off the bench as a 6-man here. 12 points, 3 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 of 6 from downtown. So Halliburton, he's a player that should be owned in 12-team leagues and more. But shallower leagues, 8 to 10-team leagues, he's just not ready yet to get a role on your roster because he's going to be inconsistent. His minutes are going to be up and down, but I think he'll lock in at about 20, 25 minutes a game. Glenn Robinson in this one, 20 minutes, 7 points, 3 boards, 2 assists, but he holds no value. Corey Joseph, 14 points, 14 minutes, 7 points, 2 rebounds, 4 assists. He has no value. And Hassan Whiteside, he actually played in this game. 9 minutes, 8 points, 2 boards. So Whiteside, they'll probably trade him by the deadline if they're out of it. And obviously they got to play him to build his value up a little. Whiteside in the offseason, he signed a 1-year deal to the veteran minimum. So they're going to try to build him up and trade him. And right now, Whiteside, he's not playing enough. And a lot of DMPs as well. So he shouldn't be owned on any fantasy rosters. So that was the Indiana Pacers and the Sacramento King recap. Portland Trailblazers and the Toronto Raptors. And this ball game came down to the wire here. Pascal Siakam missing a big shot to win it. And CJ McCollum, a huge game in this one. And a big shot to win the game for Portland. Now we'll go to the box score here. And we'll start off with Alex Len. He got the start in this one, but he has no fantasy value at all. He played 9 minutes in this game, and he didn't bring anything to the stat line. So Len, he shouldn't be on any fantasy rosters unless, you're in a crazy deep league. OG Anunoby, another good game for him here. 18 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, 6 of 9 from the field for OG, 4 for 6 from downtown. So these Raptors, they're struggling this season, 2-8 on the year, but their starters are getting heavy minutes, and they're pretty much going with a 8 or 9 man rotation right now. So Anunoby, he's getting opportunities. He was a sleeper for a lot of people this season, going into fantasy drafts, and so far, he's delivering for owners. Fred VanVleet, he had an off game in this one, surprisingly. 10 points, only 6 assists, 4 of 13 from the field, 2 of 7 from downtown. So VanVleet, he's a good ball player. He's having a great fantasy season so far. But I think he's starting to slow down just a little bit right now because his numbers, he was playing over his head where I don't think he was going to keep it up in the last couple games now. Those numbers have dropped. But Fred VanVleet, he's a good player to have you on your fantasy roster. And I think he'll be fine. Pascal Siakam, a nice triple-double in this one. 22 points, 13 rebounds, 10 assists, 9 of 17 from the field. So Siakam, he's really getting it going now ever since Toronto sat him out that game after he walked off the court earlier before the game was over. But since then, he's taken off. He's putting up big numbers, and he was a top 30 ranked player, in my opinion, coming into the season because he could do things like this, Siakam. For a big man, he moves like a guard. He's a great passer of the basketball, and he's starting to shoot the basketball better, even though in this game, he didn't add a 3. So a great night for Siakam. I know he missed the buzzer beater to try to win it 2 nights in a row. But this guy's a gamer. He's going to try to improve and get better, and he's not scared of the big moment. Kyle Lowry, he's a player I said to sell high this week, but he had a decent game as far as stats. Just his field goal percentage took a total hit in this one. 18 points, 9 rebounds, 2 assists, 5 of 17 from the field, 3 of 12 from downtown. So Kyle Lowry, he's been solid this year, but I would sell him high because I don't know if he's going to make it through the whole season. And these heavy minutes are going to wear and tear on Lowry, a veteran who's been in the NBA 10 plus years now. I don't think his body's going to hold up with these major minutes, but Nick Nurse here, this team's struggling at 2-8, and he's trying to throw his best players out there for major minutes. But we'll see if Lowry holds up. Chris Booker, another huge game here for him, 20 points, 8 rebounds, and an assist, 7 of 12 from the field, and a great 5 of 8 from downtown. So Booker, he was a sleeper as well this season, and so far he's shattered expectations of what people thought he would do. This guy, he's blocking a lot of shots, he's hitting threes, he's playing the six-man role here for the Toronto Raptors, and he's getting the job done. But Booker, he's a player I would sell high because I don't think his value is going to be any higher than this. And right now in 9 category leagues, he's ranked number 21, so Booker, he's really playing great. But this is a definite sell-high candidate here because I don't know if he's going to put up these numbers the whole season. That's just my opinion. If you want to keep him, great, because he's producing. But if you could get something of goods in a trade, you definitely sell him high. Nolan Powell, he was a recommended pickup this week, 10 points, 3 rebounds, 2 for 4 from downtown. So Powell, he's going to play minutes. It seems like he's in and out of the lineup. Toronto, they just really don't have a set 5. It depends on the matchup. And on this night, they went with Alex Lynn as a starter. But Norman Powell and Booker, the only guys off the bench you really want to own here in Toronto. Portland now, Jusuf Nurkic, he got banged up in this one and left early, 2 points, 2 rebounds. So Nurkic, it's been a tough season for him, and he's not really giving fantasy owners what they want. So 2 points, 2 rebounds. We'll see what the outcome is with his injury, and hopefully he gets better. Derrick Jones Jr., 19 minutes, 4 points, 3 boards, and assists. He's a better real-life player than fantasy. So right now, he's just a player. He's going to start for Portland, but he has no value. CJ McCollum, another huge game for him. 30 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, 5 for 11 from downtown, and a nice 10 of 19 from the field. And CJ right now in 9-cat leagues, he's number 1 ranked in fantasy basketball, which is hard to believe. But McCollum, he's been a consistent player for years now for the Trailblazers and fantasy owners. But so far this season, he's going off, and he's averaging 28 points a game. And I don't know if he'll really slow down that much. He's a consistent shooter. He barely misses games. He gets to the foul line. He's consistent. His passing is getting better. So CJ McCollum, he's balling out, and what a season for him so far. Robert Covington, another mediocre line. He got the start, though. 33 minutes, 7 points, 8 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 of 8 from downtown. So Covington, if I'm a Covington owner, I would be worried right now. He's just not putting up the huge numbers or anything of hugeness in either category. He's not scoring the basketball well. His three-point shooting is way down from last season, and last year he just fit that Rocket team better, I guess, than he does here in Portland. Damian Lillard, another solid game, 23 points, 7 boards, 5 assists, and he went 8 for 16 from the field and 3 for 6 from downtown. So right now, it looks like CJ McCollum's the main man in the scoring category so far this season over Lillard, but Lillard's fine. He was a first-round pick for a reason, and he's going to have many big nights this season. Carmelo Anthony, off the bench, he got a crazy 35 minutes of work in this one. 20 points, 5 boards, 3 assists, 6 of 14 from the field, and 4 for 9 from downtown. So Melo, you know what you're going to get from him. 12 to 15 points on average, 5 to 6 rebounds, a couple assists, and now he's starting to hit threes. Carmelo, he fits this team well here in Portland. He's more of a catch-and-shoot player. No more ISOs for him, it seems like, with these other playmakers on this team. And it was a good landing spot for him. And if he's available in some of your leagues and you need some scoring and three-point shooting and a few boards, Melo, he ain't the worst of guys to pick up. Gary Trent in this one, 29 minutes, but no impact really. 8 points, 2 rebounds, 1 of 5 from downtown. So Gary Trent, I think an injury to Melo or a trade or something would open it up for him to have a good fantasy role. But in this game, it's just hard with all these good players and scorers here on Portland for Trent to be consistent and owned in fantasy leagues. Enes Kanter, another good game in this one. Only in 15 minutes of play, 14.6 rebounds, 7 of 8 from the field. So if Nurkic's going to be out a while, Kanter, his value's great already, but it's going to skyrocket now. So Enes Kanter, if he's out there in your leagues, he's still available in about 53% of fantasy leagues. I will pick him up. Rodney Hood, 13 minutes, 2 points. He has no value. And Harry Giles, 4 minutes, 2 points, 3 boards. So that was the Toronto Raptors at Portland recap. And that was the January 11th fantasy basketball and NBA recap.